booster ignition, and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and the Bean universe. Lesbo and the Bean. LATB, Lat B, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back. Episode 111 underway. We don't have fights this week, but there is so much fun information. We can really start it from anywhere. Real quick, how have you been since we last got
111. It's been a life, hanging in there. Back living the dream on Lesbo and the Bean. So everything's okay in the world.
So we already had our post show over the last fun fights that we had, but since then we've had tons of Twitterverse stuff going on, tons of MMA news, welterweight divisions getting tossed up in the air, belts on the line, people getting in all sorts of trouble, shoeys being poured down everybody's face, fights for Kamaru Usman winning outside of the ring as much as inside the ring. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to start? How deep do you want to get?
Okay, let's see. Let me just see. I'm staring up at the sky to see if I can just think of anything's really intriguing me right now. I feel like the Colby, this is the funniest thing to me right now. The love T. Woods is getting.
So, with T. Woods...
I wish we could have made a bet on that.
Yeah, this is what he needed. Because T. Wood, for a very long time, hasn't got that hype. He's even said, people don't like me because you're racist. Dana White doesn't like me because he's racist. No, it's because you're kind of boring. You are an amazing athlete and you are the current champion, but you can't sell a fight to save your life. And you needed somebody that could sell the fight. You finally got him, and... this is the first time T. Wood has actually had a big supporting. I find it hilarious, and Colby Covington proves the genius of Colby Covington. Proves it, 100%, right here in this fight.
And did you see T. Woods on Ariel Hawani?
I did end up catching the final show of the MMA Hour. Lesbo and the Bee now going to have to take the reins. Now going to have to be...
I didn't know it was the final show, and I saw about 10 minutes of it.
Oh, well, you missed a good 6 hours of the MMA's final hour. Now it's going to ESPN and Chael Sonnen. Ain't nobody gonna watch that. Ain't nobody got no time for that.
I thought Luke Thomas was taking over.
I hope not, because I will stop watching the MMA Hour. I don't know why I dislike Luke Thomas. I don't know why.
It's a real question. I asked myself this. I don't know why, and this is what I really think it is. He is emotionless. He seems like he should be on Westworld.
I do agree.
He's like the white version of Bernard. He just says things like this, and he doesn't ever get excited.
I feel like he's been sick 11 out of 12 months out of the year. Every time I hear him, he's so flabby, and I'm like, I'm not going to listen to this guy.
I do think Stay Frosty is super clever for a mature, prematurely drained guy.
Yeah, it is. It's a good one. My bid for the next host of the MMA Hour, if it chooses to stick around, New York Rick, Nickel Rick. I always thought he was pretty good. I think he does a fairly well job oozing ums, but we all get stuck in that.
I was going to say the Bean, and I would be your New York.
Woo! Well, of course, obviously, other than the Bean and Lesbo taking over.
I would be your New York Rick, yeah. I would...
Hey, Vox Media Center.
We're kind of one of the only squads out there that do it like this, that it's a similar, two-person jobby going on. Fighter and the Kid isn't an MMA or UFC or MMA show. They chat about it occasionally. It just involves an MMA guy. The Big Brown Breakdown, now below the belt, is half boxing now and talks a lot. I think we're UFC specific, unless it's big enough to
really transcend.
Yeah, and maybe that's not what the MMA Hour needs. But you watch every other fight, Bellator in the series and blah blah blah.
And the series. Speaking of which, Dana White's Contender Series Season 2 officially kicked off Tuesday at, I believe, 6 or 7 p.m. Either way, there were 6 bouts. Most of them ended up finishing in knockouts. Did you end up catching any of those highlights and or the bouts on a Tuesday night?
And I really think I need to start watching it.
It was fun. Very controversial.
DWTCS, whatever the letters are for Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Shitty name. Couldn't it be called Dana White's Top Dog or That's a shitty name. Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series.
That's what it's called, isn't it?
That's a bullshit name.
I have grown accustomed to it, I guess. I'm used to it. I'm all in. I'm watching. Did have to catch a couple more of the replays than I'd like just because of prior engagements that I had to be involved in. But the controversy comes from Greg Hardy, the wife beater himself, diving into the NFL a little bit. He's now coming over to the UFC. His first professional MMA fight ever ended up being against another guy who actually was a favorite, 13-second knockout. There was a couple, though. There was an 8-second knockout, I believe, as well, and he ended up having one fight officially, and Dana White brought him into the UFC. How do you feel about Greg Hardy? How do you feel about his prior record? And we've seen 3 or 4 other fighters with just one. Thiago Silva lost his job, and that was speculation. He never assaulted anybody. And then 3 other guys actually did and were immediately removed. Why does Greg Hardy get the pass? What do you think is going on here?
I don't condone beating a woman unless it's inside the octagon.
Oh!
But I also, whoever makes the rules about how much time you have to serve to pay however much debt, I don't necessarily agree with the length of time fitting the crime. But if your time is served, I'm all for your life being able to move on. Whether you've changed or not, we have to see. But the only reason he gets a pass that others don't is fame. And it's so crazy to me the amount of people that don't understand it. They don't get it. They don't get that fame gives you passes sometimes.
It doesn't matter.
Whether it's CM Punk or a football player, or that's
Brock
why
Lesnar.
it matters. Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
that's why it matters. They want sometimes it's about it, and just
Selling
suck
the
it
fight.
up and realize that it's not. It's a disgrace. No one should a UFC pay-per-view, like, as that note itself, like the UFC pay-per-view being on one becomes like winning an Oscar, where that's not the case. The best guys always don't make it to pay-per-view. The best guys, it took Frankie Edgar how long to be, or look at Demetrius Johnson, how long till he gets his pick, so I just it's okay, everyone, if people get to make money. It's okay. It's what it is.
By people, do you mean the UFC? Because they're obviously going to benefit the most.
I've been thinking about it too. As for the fighters, it's up to them what contract they sign, and there's other organizations they can go into if it's important to wear their sponsors on their shorts and not Reebok. The platform that the UFC gives you to have your name known, that you are allowed to build your own brand, it's really not about them. It's about you building your own brand. So the investment that you might lose from the sponsors you currently have being on Bellator, the platform the UFC gives you, I think makes the sponsors you could potentially get so much better. So I think it's obviously worth the squeeze if all the best guys are in the UFC, and it's not even arguably. There's some good guys in other organizations, but the organization as a whole, it's the best. That's why everyone wants to get there. I'm off my platform.
I would agree. I would agree. It is the best, and that's why people get into these situations, is because a lot of fighters, even if it's a bad decision, which fighters aren't known to make the best decisions all the time, there's quite a few that'll say, I would fight for free as long as I fight in the UFC, because they test against the perceived actual best fighters in the world, which is the UFC right now. And you're always going to have those people, and UFC and managers are always going to take advantage of the people that are willing to do the work.
And for all intents and purposes, the cleanest organization that you can fight in. And it doesn't, I'm not saying...
I don't know if I believe that.
What do you think's the cleanest?
I don't think any of them are. I think the UFC still has a mega problem.
I did not say the UFC was clean, but I know for a fact whatever they test in Bellator, which they get tested, they're not getting woken up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, true.
They're not getting checked on at this time. Like USADA, for all its holes, and we know people sneak through. We saw Brock Lesnar fight, and he's gonna fight again.
He has asthma. I'm just saying he has asthma.
Yeah, whatever. But for all intents and purposes, it's the safest one if you really want to test your brass against the best in the world.
Totally. So let's
Speaking of, we talked about Brock Lesnar. Unless you want to talk,
I was going to go into real quick. even though you might not be the biggest fan of the Dana White Contender Series Tuesday Night Fights, will a Shevchenko bring you around?
No, I want to start watching it. I've heard good things about it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And my feed lit up last night, and I'm like, oh, I'm missing something. And I knew you'd be watching it. And I actually am intrigued, because the one thing I didn't like about the Tough House is because I watch enough Real Housewives. I want to watch fights. And so I do like that about the Contender Series. It does seem like a little more fights involved.
Quick and to the point.
I'm in. And because Pantera Shevchenko is fighting, I'm in even more.
Antonia herself is going to make her debut coming up on next week, if not the week after series. But that is going to be a fun one. Good Muay Thai striker coming in there. Really quick, though, there was a really fun finish last night where this is with the fame of Greg Hardy and everything. There was a guy named, I think it was Curtis Curtains, somewhere along those lines. I know I'm butchering it. But he ended up winning via hook kick and did not get a contract into the UFC. What? Yeah, the 170 pounds.
I saw that, actually, the clip, and it was so... I had to watch it again and again. Because
how do you not get picked up?
Even you couldn't tell he was going for that. Like, it was such a good... Even watching his body beforehand, I thought he was going to do a completely different move. Even though I knew it was coming, I had watched the clip over and over again. I was really impressive.
So, 170, that's how deep of a division it is, where Greg Hardy at like 185, 205, wherever he's at, they're looking for people 170, they can turn away prospects potentially, even though this Curtis gentleman did break his hand as well, and this has been an 11-year-long journey. So even though he won his fight, he officially retired after not getting picked up for the UFC, and that's one of the stories you're never going to hear. That's one of the thousands of people that you don't even know. You don't know this 1% of athletes that are in the UFC, of why people want to be in the UFC, because there's so many amazing talents that never show because hands, knees, they need to pay bills, they got babies.
Yeah.
It is quite a world we live in, quite a time to see all this stuff.
Well,
like, fun times.
A cool thing one day when we are enormo and super successful and huge and
what? We're not now?
extra. Well, I just mean for this. It
oh,
has to
more
be this kind of like where we have our own scholarship.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Like
Lat B
that
scholarship.
kind of success where we're like, so we need a charity.
Lat B money.
We'll have Lat B scholarship, and it will just be, instead of funding someone to go to college, it'll be paying for someone to go to like an American Top Team and their expenses at home.
Oh,
so they can, like,
interesting. Yeah. I like that.
Sponsor our own fighter, and then if they get big, they'll just pay it forward, and it'll never be a contract. It'll just be in their heart. Like, no, one day you'll be able to do this, and you do it for a fighter, and that way, hopefully, and we'll watch a bunch. We'll be like, you have to send us the tapes. Send us the tapes of your fights, and that's how we'll decide. And we'll sit like nerds and watch tape after tape, and we'll be like, this motherfucker is raw talent. That's the Lat B scholarship. And then we'll be like, here's the gyms you can go to, because we'll call a few of them.
Yeah.
And get like a co-deal. And we'll be like, our decision, you can either go to, we have a deal at AKA, at American Top Team, or the one we hope you pick. Not everyone gets this. Out at the BMF Ranch. It's up to you, boy. Or girl.
Dang. That sounds like a fun dream to have. Definitely, we're going to have time to get there. Hopefully the fans get to grow too.
I wanted to say, because about Brock Lesnar, what do you think about the Jon Jones, Brock Lesnar?
As much as we've talked about it here on the show, this is the freak show era of the UFC right now, where it doesn't matter if you want to meet the president, you can in the UFC right now. If you want the president to potentially host a fight, it might happen. We got those ties here. Big Uncle Dana's got some ties, but either way, I absolutely love that fight. I didn't know I wanted to see it, but I do. I will pay whatever it takes to watch that fight. And guess what I'm picking? The coked up Jon Bones Jones. You got to. Who would you pick in that fight? How do you feel about it?
I thought about it today really hard, because I'm like, look how huge Brock is, and I'm like, boiled down, I think Daniel Cormier is a far better wrestler than Brock Lesnar. So all the dangerous parts of what Brock possesses, Jon Jones has dealt with the best at that. And so then it changed my whole opinion to feel very steady about
Jon Jones winning that fight. Oh,
Jon
yeah. Jon Jones!
And then I was excited to think about it, and then I missed Jon Jones, and then I had to refollow him.
Oh, you did? You unfollowed Jon Jones?
Yes, I only started following not Johnny Bones Jones, but the other guy on Twitter named Jon Jones.
The guy with the dyed hair.
Yeah.
That's the nicest way I could put it. Which has made a career for himself in the MMA
because
world.
he has the same name as Jon Jones.
Because he officially didn't want to give up the Twitter handle and realized that people wanted interviews and is now a voice in the MMA community. He even went to Bellator, got his hands wrapped by Stitch Duran, and got pictures with Scott Coker. What the fuck? Let's go, Lad B. We need to get some
But he
Stitch
was
Duran
also,
wraps.
he's like, tell me what fights I need to watch to do
Well, yeah.
whatever.
He also gets tons of hate mail anytime Jon Jones is fucked up, which has been quite a few times.
And he always...
He gets swarmed. And he's just like, sorry, guys, wrong one.
Today he retweeted one and somebody said, come on, Joe Rogan, you have some pool. We have to see Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar. And he retweeted him, but I don't think Joe Rogan has that much pool.
That's a good one. That's a fun fight.
Yeah.
It's a fun fight. I'm going with Lesnar in that one.
Yeah, Lesnar. It depends what Jon Jones you're talking about. But if I say the word greasy, what does that make you think of? Anything in MMA news right now?
Everything? I don't know. There's so
anything
many
about
reasons.
greasing?
As far as like talking about Gedalia, I do like that. She is saying that she's going to put in a claim, but if you didn't do it at the time, you can shut up about it,
if
honestly.
you're not filled in, Carla Esparza is accusing Claudia Gedalia of greasing in their fight.
So I did listen to where she officially talked on the MMA Hour about the greasing situation and how the only reason that I'm not for Carla Esparza in this one bit whatsoever is because I have competed before and I thought guys were cheating. The second I thought guys were cheating or I realized he's got staph infection, I don't have to wrestle this guy. Forfeit. Hey, ref, done. I'm not going to keep wrestling and get tired. Fuck this bullshit. So the moment she realized that she wanted to tell someone was after the fight was over and she was back in her locker room because she didn't think to tell anyone.
Yeah, she was
It's
like,
your own
I thought
fault.
about telling the ref a few times.
I don't know how to go about that. Real quick, you say, in your minute, you go, ref, come here. Can you go feel her? Because she feels greasy as fuck to me.
Yeah.
If you don't do it at that point in time, fight's over. Done. You lost. If she would have won, do you think she would have said she greased? Exactly. She wouldn't have.
I thought she did win that fight.
I thought she won that fight too. Doesn't mean...
And I had
it's a bullshit excuse,
Claudia
though.
Gedalia. And
Me too.
I know it is a bullshit excuse, but do you think it happened?
I would say yes, it probably did. But you
Do you
missed
think
the
it
boat.
happens
All
frequently?
the time. You can see Anderson Silva's like second and third fights in the UFC when he finally started to come up against wrestlers. GSP talked about it. You could see Anderson Silva, no joke, do this. Wipe his arms and chest. You could see him move all of the Vaseline to his body, and only after GSP said something and a few fighters said something, the next time Anderson tried it, the ref came and got a towel and re-wiped him off because the ref had realized that he was greasing. And enough people made a stink, but it would be real time. It happens. So the other way, and this is what Carla Esparza, what I don't know why she didn't decide to disclose this.
I mean, as far as the women's 115 is concerned, she's probably wrestled more than anyone. She should know how to tell somebody's greasing.
Immediately. That's what I don't get. But what you can do is take baths. That's how. So you can do
like an oil bath.
Exactly. That's exactly it. You want, when you're cutting weight a little bit because you're draining yourself, when you finally start to drink liquids, you get into a bath. I don't remember the exact process, but you do add a certain oils and salts to this. So you sit in it for an hour and a half, fall asleep the next day. When you start to profusely sweat, all that oil,
greasy,
comes back out, and they can wipe you down 10 times. It takes a day and a half for you to finally get that oil out of you. But a ref could feel that. You'd be like, whoa, something is weird. You really could. And then you would go steps from there. again, you don't say it when the fight's over an hour later when you're eating dinner with friends. Like, it's kind of shitty. You shut up about it or you say something right away is kind of my entire point of view on that.
Kind of, would you say it's kind of the same thing as like, oh, you come in a little overweight, I still take the fight and lose, and then I'm like, oh, well, he was overweight. Or do you think, like, once the fight's done, it's done?
It's done? Once it's done, it's done. The only times that it's iffy is with eye pokes or like illegal strikes.
So do you think it's okay though that she said it just for other fighters to know maybe next time?
Yeah. And I would.
Or do you think
next
it's a
time
known thing
around,
in the 115 that they're like, that girl, she always loses, and we don't say it because we all have our things we do. Like,
but she did say
people
it.
In the eye.
But she did say it.
Like, maybe she doesn't know the code. Like,
she's been in it as long as anyone. And other people have called it out.
Police, like, you should say something. You should say something, girl.
Me too, girl. Me too.
She was greasy in my fight, too.
Yeah, she was greasing up. That's how I feel about Carla. What else ended up going down?
Take it as a compliment. She thought Carla Esparza was dangerous enough. I thought Carla was going to get handled by Esparza.
Everybody did. Well, we broke that down.
To boot, I didn't think she was going to piece her apart on the feet and throw double the punches the entire fight. Maybe even more than double the punches.
And hurt Godelia when nobody saw that coming.
Godelia had 2 more takedowns.
Right.
And Esparza had double the punches. So...
it's iffy. But other fights that ended up going down this last weekend, we had Kamaru Usman and PFL getting into it in the stands. Did you end up catching any of this information?
I saw little clips here on YouTube, but I didn't really know what it was about.
So, there was a fan who was kneeling during the national anthem. Kamaru Usman walked in as the anthem was going on, realized it was the national anthem, and stood still and was quiet, and the drunk kneeling individual or patron ended up thinking that Kamaru was looking at him and called Kamaru an N-word, and Kamaru was just kind of like, hey man, back off, like this is a national anthem.
He called him a nugget?
He called him a McNugget. You know what he got. I can't say it on radio. So he called him a Nigerian and ended up swinging on Kamaru Usman, which then started a posse of them to start swinging. Kamaru and Ali took a couple shots, eventually got out of there. Security actually apologized to Kamaru and Ali Abdelaziz, saying that they were watching that group of individuals and saw they were drunk and should have kicked them out earlier. They were sorry, and that was the entire situation. But other blows. How do you feel Usman comes out about this one? He took a direct shot to the back. Did he break a hand? Did he break a toe?
As long as he got his punches in.
Which he never swung.
Oh, he handled himself super classy. Hashtag stay classy, Usman. Stay classy.
Stay classy, Usman.
Don't let the rednecks get you down. Were they in Florida?
No, PFL was. I couldn't tell you where PFL was.
It sounds like P, Florida. FL. Like something like, was it in like Port Orange, Florida?
I want to say like Missouri or somewhere around there, but
it's just like Premier Fight League.
Exactly, they go everywhere.
It doesn't stand. The FL doesn't stand for Florida.
Nope. It's Fight League. Kamaru, we talked about Antonio.
We talked about the greaser, Antonio Pantera, Shevchenko.
MMA hours out of here. Luke Thomas, that is just late breaking and heartbreaking. I do not want to see. I hope not. That's really bad information. I hope.
What? I hope so. We don't know when the fight's gonna happen between. I like how T Woods called out Colby and was saying,
interim belt, stupid.
Don't make me release the text of you saying that you had to figure out how to get money and put your name in there and blah blah blah.
And then Ariel said, please show me those texts, and he's like, all right man, I'm gonna do it for you. And then he started and he's like, oh wait, I don't have them. Bust. That looks really shitty, T Wood. I'm just saying. You talk about it and you have it, or you don't talk about it at all. Same Carla Esparza. You got it or you don't. You say it or you don't.
Did you know Usman and Jon Jones were friends?
I did not know that, but I know that Jon Jones specifically has come out and talked to T Wood about how much he's gonna help fight Colby Covington. He wants to train T Wood. He's like, I'll do whatever you need.
Huh?
Did you hear about that?
I've really been thinking about it. I just don't know where Colby. I don't know how he fares against C. Woods.
How do you feel about, we talked about it a bit, but the belt potentially being in the White House? It hasn't been done yet.
It's good. It's a good thing.
I agree. I think it brings so many more eyes in the sport.
I feel like we talked about it after the last show.
Already? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We've broken it down quite a few times. I just find it, because...
I think it's awesome.
It's
I mean, if
awesome.
it happens, it's a big deal. It's just like
Doesn't matter who the president is.
Yeah, if Ronda Rousey won an Oscar, that's big for MMA. You know, like,
I'd
I
agree
don't
with
care
that.
what's going on. I don't care. If she won an Oscar for Roadhouse, huge for MMA.
What if CM Punk won an Oscar?
CM Punk going back to WWE would
Is
be
he?
good for MMA. I just guess.
Oh, okay. Right,
I think
right.
they're cross promotional anyway. I think the whole thing is kind of. I don't think UFC's fake at all, but I just think there's deals made like we'll let Ronda out of her contract for cheap, but just remember this when we need Brock later in the year. Like I think there's that kind of thing. And CM Punk going back and then them showing his losses because other fighters will call him out
Oh, yeah.
and laugh and blah blah blah, and he'll be like, "You couldn't get in there."
There's
He'll probably
already-
team up with Ronda.
Luke Bryant, I don't know enough about wrestling, has already officially called out CM Punk and said he could beat him on the ground. That's already happened. Way to kick him while he's down, assholes. Way to kick him while he's down. Just saying, that's a classy
What do you think
endeavor.
about Joe Rogan sitting ringside and saying, "This ain't Rocky"? People think they can watch Rocky while a guy's inside the octagon.
I do
fighting.
believe that got a little disrespectful to a point. Joe's just kind of flaunting that he has fuck you money by this point and is just like, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And maybe he doesn't care anymore, but I think he might end up missing it more than he thinks, especially if he leaves on bad terms. And he's pushing the envelope. You got to be somewhat of a company man. Somewhat. And he was really trashing. I didn't like that because regardless of those two fighters, doesn't matter. If they're in the ring, your job is to make them look good. That's it.
Yeah, both fighters.
Doesn't matter
That's
who's
it.
in there.
And if you, to me, it would have been more impressive if you could have made a guy like CM Punk and Mike Jackson, if you could have talked about their match with the same respect that you
100%.
talk about all these awesome fighters, it would have just shown how professional and amazing you were at your job. If you could have been like, well, you know, what CM Punk needs to do now is turn over Mike Jackson, you know, like talk about it in the same way. And I know it was an awful fight, but I think the preconceived idea of it being an awful fight ahead of time, instead of people really noticing anything good at all we all did was pick it apart. And
Yep.
I know for a fact I can't go 15 minutes with somebody else hanging on me. I know it. Like, I don't want to. Like, and so I know it's not UFC, and I know there is a place, and it's not, you know, but sometimes your fame can get you places. Because you worked hard in other parts of your life, sometimes you get to do things. So if I became successful enough that they were like, hey, do you want to get in there with fucking, we'll pay you $800,000 or whatever crazy money CM Punk made, and you'll get in there with Chris Cyborg, I'd be like, okay.
Oh, in a heartbeat.
So then if they said to me, hey, you have this big name, we'll give you $800,000 to get in there against somebody no-name schmo who was only wrestled a few times himself and has never won a fight, yeah, I'm going to do that. It's not like they asked CM Punk to fight like a real fighter. I mean, not
With
for
a real fighter. Jackson actually got on other podcasts and was talking about already how he knows how Dana White feels about him not trying to finish, and Jackson himself came out and said, maybe I don't have it in me because I didn't want to give this guy CTE, I didn't want to hurt him, I didn't want to use elbows. So why are you in there fighting, Jackson? If you don't want to go in there and try to finish someone, come on, man.
Okay, well,
Come on, man.
that's fine.
Go to
Then
WWE.
why didn't you submit him?
100%. Good point. Good point.
Just finish it.
Finish it and you don't have to give him CTE. Good point.
And I think kind of for Dana, he wanted to kind of prove a point, like even the lowest rung real MMA fighter can beat somebody who hasn't been trained. And then you go in there and, you know, horse around and not do kind of, we gave you a platform, and if you would have gone in there and make it exciting, have a brutal finish, great call out, you get another fight in the UFC. What are you doing, dildo?
I think the WWE route for him is definitely the best way to go. We're going to want our 10% here at Lappy Jackson once you start making those money, because you're a crossover star regardless. As much as CM Punk's fame transferred to MMA, you're getting some of that rub to the WWE world. And I think McMahon would even likely say, you just beat a guy that was being a real dick to us, and we just try to sue? Okay, we'll give you a shot, just because.
Yeah, maybe. What about Mickey Gall? Do you think he could go to the WWE?
I think that any UFC fighter could go to the UFC right now, and it's been one of Vince McMahon's long-standing things. He tried to really crumble the UFC a few years ago, with Sonnen talking about trying to get, we talked about that. Vince McMahon offering $1 million to no-show Silva and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a feud. It's money game. It's all money moves.
I think they're very selective, and they wouldn't just take any UFC star. Like, look at Ronda. That took a long time.
They taking Shayna Blazer as well. Shayna Blazer.
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly, you don't know who that is.
But maybe, what's she look like? What's her build and her...
She looks like out-of-shape Pennington, Raquel Pennington. Not as cute either.
And she's in WWE?
Yeah, but she's on the NXT circuit. She's not Ronda level. So. But still, she got picked up with that
I think, though, they have, that's the traveling team.
Yeah.
It's like they don't really...
But I mean, she was... Some people say that she was elite at one point in time. I always thought she was a C-level fighter myself, personally.
Yeah, I didn't know there was... Yeah, I don't know her at all. But
there's a good reason for that.
They would take any UFC fighter. I think that a lot of UFC fighters, it would be their dream to be in the WWE. They'd make a shit ton more money with a ton more exposure.
Interesting. I guess we gotta have a poll out there. We gotta pull all our UFC fighters. What do you want to do more? I think there's a lot that are like, that's fake. I want to win a real fight.
Well, no, the same way they'd want to get into Hollywood or get into, everybody knows it's fake. Like, everybody knows exactly what's going on. It's just to be famous, like that crave of fame.
All right, any last bits? I feel like we covered a big, vast majority for an in-betweener. We like to call these a tweenies.
I know, I'm sure there's going to be 47 things.
We forgot to talk about afterwards.
111. You should fly through some fighters' names just in case we missed anything.
Faber, Dominic Cruz reconciled by finishing the last part of the MMA hour. They are officially on good terms.
Bisping, did he do a good job commentating the Tuesday night series?
I did not. I actually had to watch the replay, so I only watched the fights. I didn't, and they were highlights. I had prior engagements. The Bean's trying to get an education ball. Y'all trying to get an education
ball? He needs an education ball.
Send it.
Yeah. So Bisping, Michael Bisping.
Oh no, with that real good point. Supposedly, the reason he's going to analysis is because there's not going to be any more FS1. It's ESPN, and guess who ESPN's taking over? Not Michael Bisping.
Oh.
Yeah, didn't get that contract renewed because it's completely different companies. Just found out about that. I believe it was Colby who actually was like, oh, you're not talking about how you're not going over. That's why you're commentating this Tuesday. I was like, damn, shade, homie.
Oh.
That's some shade, homie.
Huh.
Yeah, right?
So are any of them, who is going over with ESPN?
I don't know. I know Bisping isn't.
Could we get all new announcers? Is there a danger of that?
There's a it's a new board. It's a new management.
I wonder if we could see more or no Joe Rogan. And when this doesn't start till later this year. This doesn't affect
Joe Rogan because he's hired by the company, same as Bisping is now. Because he's a commentator instead of a panel. The panel's Fox.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be the same as ESPN. The panel's now Ariel Helwani-Sonnen.
Okay,
as far as I know. There's going to probably be more.
Ariel Helwani-Sonnen?
Yeah, you didn't know that? It's
I knew Ariel was going to ESPN, but I just thought it was to do an MMA. I didn't know it was going to...
Oh, no, it sounds trashy.
Huh.
Going to be so trash. I don't know how I feel about that.
I can't believe Dana's allowing that.
It's not up to Dana. ESPN paid him money and said, shut the fuck up. We're doing what we want.
But the way, if you're a bigwig enough, if Dana wanted to pull the plug on the Ariel thing, they'd be like, oh, easy for cheesy. We have 30 other guys in the back. I know, so maybe he's over whatever feud that they had.
Dana White, over the past few years, as much as everybody's saying he's become more tyrannical, especially now that Zuffa's not there to keep him in line, which a lot of fighters have been saying, Dana White has turned a new leaf. He's reconciled with a lot of fighters. He said, I will never talk to that guy again, and has now since backtracked a bit, which I really, really like. So I don't think it's all said and done with Dana White's eyes. It's a promoter. You got to talk tough sometimes. It's the way it goes.
The best promoter in the game. I guess that's it.
Also the best in the game. Lat B.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, make sure you're hitting them likes and subscribes, and we love you so much, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Lat B. For all things Lesbo and the Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.